I found my pics on my brother's PC. About 2 months ago now my brother passed away. It has devastated my family and we've been slowly putting ourselves back together. My mom has finally got to the point where she is comfortable going through his belongings that got sent to us from his flat, and she gave me his PC among other bits to take a look at and see if I could do anything with it. I know a fair bit about computers, so I thought I would set it up to see what still worked. It booted up fine, and to my surprise he didn't have a password on it. He lived on his own, so I guess he never needed to keep anyone out. Out of a sort of morbid curiosity I opened the browser. I thought I could maybe see some of the last things he was looking at towards the end, and I saw a link to his Google Photos in his favorites bar. I thought this was an amazing chance to get back some of the photos we might have never seen, get some photos of his friends and adventures he'd been on over the years. On the side I saw his albums and one of them had my name on it. In this album was a large ton of my pics, videos and screenshots of some of my Instagram posts and stories. I didn't go through it for long, but it was a massive amount. I have no hecking idea how he got hold of them or why the hell he'd been collecting them. I used to be in a long-distance relationship with my ex who loved me sending him pictures and videos, but there's no way he would have sent them to my brother. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdaughter to go ask her real dad when she asked me to pay for her plane tickets? I married my wife Elise 12 years ago. She has a 16-year-old daughter, Anna, from her previous relationship, and we have a 7-year-old son as well. From pretty much the beginning of our relationship, Anna and I have never gotten along. I don't know how to emphasize that it is not because of a lack of trying. She just does not like me. When she was young she was just scared of me and afraid I'd tear their family apart. Nowadays it's more of a neutral dislike rather than strong antipathy, so I suppose that's progress. Elise is a stay-at-home mother, so she relies on me for income. As a result, I pay for everything for Anna. Food. Clothes. Volleyball fees. Field trips. I take an interest in her hobbies. I go to her games. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I try my damn hardest to be the stepfather I can. But it's so hard. Always giving me curt one-word responses. Always having to have an attitude. She does things to get a rise out of me. Staying out late reeking of booze. Always trying to sneak boys in. Typical rebellious stuff. But I always let her know I love her and I'm there for her in hopes of her shithead teenager phase pasts. The opposite is true for her biological father. She adores him. Can't tell you why. He never goes to her games, always makes excuses for why he doesn't want to see her. He forgot her birthday last month and she cried herself to sleep. Well anyways, Friday, I came to her room to check her phone and read her messages. Not a permanent thing, but she's been caught sneaking out twice in the last month, so this is her punishment. I ask for the phone, she says no, I'm tired of you checking my shit, leave me alone. I tell her I'm not asking again and she goes, just F off already. You're not my real dad. You never have been. Stop acting like you can tell me what to do before getting up and slamming the door. Like I said guys. I'm tired. Tired. Of the blatant disrespect. Of being the verbal punching bag while still providing more for her than anyone else in her family. We haven't really talked since until this morning during breakfast. She asked if I could pay for her plane ticket so she could see her boyfriend cross state. Like I said, her mom doesn't work and her dad is a boss, so I normally would be the one to cough up the money. Not this time. I responded, go ask your real dad. I could tell she was hurt. Tears swelled up from her face and she excused herself from the table. My wife took me aside later and said my comment was extremely disrespectful. I said if anything's disrespectful, it's her treating me like a doormat and a credit card, and I will no longer tolerate this treatment in my house. I told her we don't have to be friends, but if she can't at least be cordial to me or respect my position as an authority figure, she can find someone else to pay for her non-essentials. Am I the a-hole? I destroyed my entire family for $99.99. I'm my mom and uncle's child, my uncle's my dad. With the recent craze of DNA testing, my family decided to try it out too. We got our results back on my birthday, and I went into the DNA relatives section to check out my matches. At the top, it listed my dad as only sharing 29.2% DNA with me and is predicted to be a half-brother, which is impossible. This didn't make sense to me since we also shared a paternal haplogroup, and we just looked so alike, so he was definitely my father. My cousin also had taken the test a while back, and she shared 24.6% with me, also predicted to be my half-sibling. We're supposed to share around 12% as first cousins. I couldn't think of a genetic relationship that would explain what I was seeing. I called the testing place, and they said the shared percentages are extremely accurate and highly unlikely to be false. The only realistic explanation for what I was seeing was that my uncle, my cousin's father, and my dad's brother, is my father. Reality hit me in the face like a flying bag of bricks. All the dots lined up, and I felt a sense of loss. I sat in my room for an hour just in shock, and then I had a feeling of anger come over me. I need answers. Without even thinking, I rushed out of my room and confronted my mother downstairs. My mom is often away on business trips. She had no idea we had done one of these tests since she just got back from a trip. My mother and I never had a traditional relationship. She was always focused on her work, and my dad ended up raising me. I didn't even sugarcoat it. I asked her if she cheated on dad with Uncle David. I have never seen the color drain from someone's face so quickly. She looked dumbfounded and then mumbled, "What kind of question is this?" Of course not. I told her everything, the test, percentages, DNA matches, all of it. Shit hit the fan. My mom fell to the ground crying, begging me not to tell dad. I left her there and went back into my room. I called my cousin, who I guess is my half-sister, and told her everything. She ended the call screaming at her dad, Uncle David. My dad then came home and stumbled into my room, asking what's wrong with mom. I told him everything too. He didn't say anything and left the room. For the next few hours, I heard my entire family fall apart outside my door. My parents got into a heated argument, and my grandparents rushed over to see what was going on. My aunt and Uncle David showed up shortly later, and Dad and David get into a big fight. Utter chaos, all on the day of my birthday. If I had spent my effing birthday money on something else, none of this would have happened. I'm too scared to go outside. F my life. My girlfriend of 3 years cheated on me with her coworker. So I exposed her and now she's getting disowned by her parents. I met my girlfriend because we took the same classes in our final year of college. We entered into our relationship as mature adults and not some hormonal teenagers. We never went to late night parties, but instead went on early morning walks as dates. Whenever we fought, we resolved it before going to sleep that night. I was glad because I thought I had finally found someone I was going to spend the rest of my life with. Now, while I was working, I made sure to not take more hours than I could handle. I wanted to always be there for my girlfriend so she wouldn't feel neglected. But these last few months, it was her who decided to extend her work hours. So even if I came home early, I was all by myself. I tried talking to her about it, but she said that it was just a phase. I agreed with her, and began working towards our future. I saved up enough money to buy her a ring, and was going to take her on a surprise vacation and propose. But on Monday, all my dreams were shattered. I was once again alone at home while my girlfriend was out working late. Her iPad just kept going off again and again, so I decided to shut it down. But I noticed that she had notifications coming from Facebook. A few months ago, we had both decided to get off that cursed social media platform, so I thought that maybe she accidentally forgot to delete the app. But as I opened it, I was filled with horror. The notifications were from a man texting her flirtatious texts, and she was responding to each and every one of them. I knew this was her coworker and I was absolutely disgusted by their texts. It was evident that they had been hooking up for at least 5 months. I don't get it. I never expected that my girlfriend would ever cheat on me. We used to be so happy together, and she never said anything that made it seem like she was unsatisfied in our relationship. But still. The fact is that she was sleeping with another man while I was planning to propose to her. I was so distraught and just told her that I'm going to sleep over at a friend's house for a few days. I called my best friend and told him about the situation. He fortunately let me stay at his place until I got my thoughts in order. I couldn't sleep at night knowing that my girlfriend was probably bringing him into our apartment while I wasn't there. Once my crying phase was over, I knew that I couldn't just let her off so easily. She was the primary on the lease, so I couldn't kick her out, but there were other methods to take revenge. First, I went and returned the ring that I had bought for her. Then I turned my eye to the furniture in our apartment. She had paid half for each item, but I decided that being cheated on was more than worth half, so it wasn't a problem. I called a U-Haul truck and loaded all the furniture except the spare bed and TV. The apartment was completely empty and looked like a prison cell. I left a note on the floor, telling her that I had found out about her affair, and was leaving her. I also told her that I was planning to propose, and she had broken my heart. I blocked her everywhere because I didn't want to deal with her complaints and crying. While I was leaving, I also called up her parents and told them everything. I had a close relationship with her father, and he was shocked to hear what his daughter had done. He didn't believe me at first, but I did send him all the evidence because I had taken screenshots. I thought that was enough, and that I should just focus on myself. But a few days later, I got a call from her dad informing me that they had decided to disown their daughter. She had called them crying, asking them for money to buy some furniture and cooking utensils, but they refused. They didn't even acknowledge her as their daughter anymore, and have already removed her from their will. So, because she decided to cheat on me, in the end, she lost not only a future husband but also her parents and her inheritance. Men who proposed and she said no. What happened afterward with your life? I started dating my first and only girlfriend at 17. After 6 years of dating, I proposed. She said, no, I'm sorry. I asked why. She said, I've been thinking about this for a while but didn't talk to you about it. I found someone else. Then she broke up with me right then and there. I asked if she cheated, and she said no. We're just friends right now. But he makes me happy when I'm with him, and you just don't. You used to. But not anymore. I tried sabotaging their relationship when I found out he was twice our age. She was 23 and he was 45. I tried to screw him over again when I found him begging her for nudes, tattled to her ultra-Christian parents, and did everything I could to be the insane one. Finally realized what I was doing, apologized, and promised never talk to her or her family ever again. I sold the ring and used the money to buy a guitar and a boatload of weed, and spiraled out of control for 3 years. Flunked all my classes, got a dead-end job at a construction gig, and slowly descended into borderline alcoholism. Couldn't leave the house or go to work or do my job without being high. Gained a ton of weight, let myself go. Finally contemplated suicide, planned it out with a 20-page instruction manual on how to make it painless, not screw it up, and not hurt anyone in the process. Never went through with it because I kept getting scared and spending my suicide fund on weed and alcohol. Finally broke down and told my parents all of this. Asked for help. Spent another year in a rehab program with a therapist. Got out and had been clean for 3 years by this September, and still wake up at 3 a.m. feeling sick every couple of months for the way I treated her after having spent 6 years telling her that I loved her. But that's all over, now, and all I can do is learn from it, promise to be better, and keep going. I'm turning 29 in a week, still living at home with my parents, and constantly battling self-loathing and anxiety while working a job for $9.25 an hour. But I pay my parents $300 a month to stay with them, and I'm going back to school. Slowly dragged my GPA from 1.28 to 2.64. I also lost a ton of weight during the pandemic and weighed just 189. Safe to say I won't be worth dating for a long time. I hope I can stop hating myself soon. She and the guy got married right after the pandemic ended. She seems happy. I had a son when I was 14 and none of my family knows besides my aunt. I was assaulted by a family member until I was 13 and moved in with my aunt. She's a good person that took me in and helped me get away from the bad people in my family. When we found out I was pregnant, she guessed how it happened. I hadn't told her about what had happened, but she said she always expected it but never had proof. She came up with a way to get me away. She pretended to get pregnant and asked my parents if she could get custody so I could move in with her, get homeschooled, and help her out. They said no at first because they knew they'd lose out on food stamps, so she offered to pay them whatever they would have gotten in food stamps in cash in exchange for me living there. They said yeah once they found out cash was involved, and my aunt gave them some extra cash every month to keep them out of our lives. My parents are your regular redneck junkies who are no good to anyone. I had the kid in 1988 and have seen my parents a handful of times since then. She went to court to get custody of me and said my parents dropped me off at her house one day and never picked me up. I went along with that story in court and it worked out. I said we went back to my house day after day but they were never home. They were ordered to come to court but never showed up. She got full custody of me and I lived with her until I was able to get myself a good job. I don't work the best job in the world, but it's better than where I came from and I'm proud of that. Anywho, she took me to get an abortion, but it was too late by our state's laws. She pretended to be pregnant, even tried to gain weight, and bought clothes that made her look bigger. I stayed home every day until I had the baby. Everyone thinks it's her kid. I don't feel bad about it and won't ever tell the kid unless my aunt wants to or some big emergency happens where he needs a body part. She always said it's my choice to tell, but I think it's her choice too. She raised him, he calls her mama, and I wouldn't want to take that away from them. He doesn't look like me at all. He doesn't really look like my aunt either. He thinks his daddy is some guy she met at a bar she had a one-night stand with and she doesn't know who he was. He's an adult now and is settling down with his wife and they're thinking about having kids. It's sometimes weird because I know if they do they'll be my grandkids but they'll never know. I don't feel like a parent to him at all. I know he's my biological kid, but I'm not his mama. Every now and then it makes me sad, but I know it was the right decision to make. He's had a good life. My aunt and I saved up to make sure he could get a good education, and he did that. He knows me as his older cousin and we get along well. He's a good guy. Hardworking, a good person, does what he can to help others. I'm proud of him. Here are answers to questions people have. The person that assaulted me is in jail for the rest of his life. He was arrested for something unrelated to what he did to me, but he won't be out of jail until he's in his 90s. I doubt he'll live that long. My aunt tried for years to get me to admit what was going on. She tried very hard. Anytime she saw me she asked if I was okay. She tried to get custody of me when I was a kid but it didn't work out. My parents acted like decent people and I denied anything was going out because of fear. Don't assume she could have done more. She did everything she possibly could, but I was too afraid to speak up. I know DNA tests exist. I don't know if he'll get one done but we'll talk about what to do if he ever does. It's complicated and I don't have the answers for what to do and neither do you. Everyone has their own opinions, none are right or wrong. Good intentions aren't always good advice. My parents are both alive as far as I know. I don't speak to them at all and haven't seen them since the early 2000s. I don't care to reconnect with them. The way I look at it, my aunt is the only mama I ever had and I don't need to worry about someone who gave me up for drug money. We went to a hospital outside of town to avoid seeing anyone we knew. Growing up everyone thought I was a shy kid. I was a big reader and spent most of my time inside anyway. No one thought it was weird that I was inside a lot. My aunt had a good job that let her stay at home and work once she started complaining about having to come in while pregnant. That helped us out a lot. Back then, you could call a store to fill in your grocery order and the grocery boy would drop them off, similar to how stores have deliveries you can order online now. My water broke in the middle of the night. We were lucky with that as our neighbors never saw us leave. No, I never went to college. When I was a kid I never thought I'd even graduate high school, but I did. I won't tell you what I do for a living or where I work. That's a strange thing to message someone. Regardless, I make enough to pay my bills and have a little savings. I used to work 3 jobs to make sure I could pay for his college once the time came. Now I only work 1. I don't like what I do but I work hard and I'm proud of that. Yes, I know my English isn't perfect. I type like how I talk and I don't care if you think that's bad. Calling yourself a grammar Nazi is a weird way to identify. I wouldn't want to be called a Nazi about anything nor would I be proud of that, but I guess you can live your best life and I pray you stop sending rude messages to people. I don't care about your opinions on abortion or if you think I'm a bad person for considering it. I was barely a teenager and it would have been the best choice for me. No, I don't regret having the child now, but I wish I didn't destroy my body in the process. I can't have kids now because of the damage that pregnancy caused my body. A few disgusting people have messaged me that this was SI, that I deserved it, or asked for details. I don't know what the hell is wrong with you but from the bottom of my heart I hope you die. The world doesn't need more sick flocks like you. Yes, I know my aunt is a great person. She's the best person I have ever known. Not just because she helped me. I think she would have done the same thing for anyone. She's an angel.
Am I the a-hole for not defending my mother-in-law after she kept saying my daughter looks nothing like me? I'm not sure what crawled up my mother-in-law's butt but she and I got along so well before I got pregnant. She called me her daughter, came over to see me all the time, called me randomly to just talk, told me she loves me all the time, etc. But after I got pregnant, something switched in her. She stopped calling. She never said I love you back when I said it. She only came over to see my husband, and 9 times out of 10, it was trying to get him out of the house to go with her. Barely gives me a hello/goodbye in passing. She even tried staying in the labor and delivery room after she was already told no because her baby needs support, and clung to my husband's arm several times trying to get him to go sit on the couch with her instead of standing by me where he was. She was eventually kicked out by the nurses. Since I had my daughter 3 months ago, she has come over a good 10 to 15 times and has literally only held my kid twice. She just follows my husband around everywhere and still tries to get him to leave with her to go do chores/tasks for her like changing tires, changing oil, fixing her computer, moving around her house, etc. And honestly, none of that bothers me nearly much as her comments about how my daughter looks nothing like me and looks exactly like her and my husband. For a bit of context, my husband looks nothing like his mom. He is a spitting image of his father. His mom is short, blonde, brown eyes. He is super tall, black hair, green eyes. You can't tell they are related at all. But she insists my daughter looks just like her and my husband and nothing like me. She's made these comments more times than I can count, and I just give a yeah, okay Becky, and leave it. But yesterday I hosted a dinner for the family and obviously invited her. She shows up with a scrapbook album with a bunch of photos of her and my husband from birth to present. She was showing/telling everyone who would listen that my daughter was basically not even mine if you go off of looks. My husband spoke up a few times with a clip: she actually looks just like my wife, but his mom didn't acknowledge him. But then she got to my mom, and my mom, being a no bullshit woman, said, "Are you blind or are you just being ignorant? That girl looks just like my daughter and nothing like you." Kinda weird to me that you are desperately pushing the narrative that the baby looks like your son and you considering your son looks nothing like you either. No one in the house said anything, but a few of them were chuckling. My husband also didn't say anything, but he looked more like a deer in headlights than anything. My mother-in-law then left. She group texted my husband and I later on saying she will never forgive us for not defending her against my mom making a scene and embarrassing her in front of everyone. I don't feel bad at all, but my husband does.
My mom is disgusting. When I was 11 years old, I was assaulted by a family member. My mother knows about this, and it is unquestionably the most horrific thing that has ever happened to me. One day when we were eating at the table, she says, "I don't care what he did to you, he's hot." My little sister was at the table and was shocked about what she said. "Mom, you know he assaulted her, right?" To which she replied, "Yeah, I know, I don't care, he's attractive," while eating food, so nonchalantly, absolutely no remorse or emotion while she said that. This conversation was almost 3 years ago and I have never, or will never forget it. I try to love my mom, but it's so hard to look at her and not remember those words. She has not apologized. What would you do? Keep in mind, she is the person to get joy out of other people's misery. In the moment I was so stunned I just walked away. Didn't say a word to her. If she knew she hurt me, she would be happy. And a part of me doesn't want to give her the satisfaction that she hurt me. I'm so lost because this is my mother, but it's unforgivable. But I am so fed up with everyone in my family treating me like a dog. Edit. Since this got a lot of attention, I'll share another story that is so disturbing. I am bi intimacy and it took me years to come out of the closet and tell my mom. I don't know why I even did that. We were eating and I'm crying, telling her about me liking other girls. She literally looked like she could not care less. She finishes eating and tells me, "You know, because I accepted you." She does hand circular motions above my face hinting to me being gay. "You should accept me being with Jacob, her ex-boyfriend." Her ex-boyfriend Jacob was extremely abusive to me and my sister. He physically fought me and my younger sister and pulled her hair. Said racist jokes and even told me the first time I effed your mom she bled. I got kicked out multiple times because my mom wanted to have intimacy with Jacob. I was even kicked out of the house in the cold hard winter. Sitting at the library calling government housing because I didn't know what to do. I even had to call and report my mom missing because she went on an 8-day date with him and completely cut off connection to her children and her dad. I physically had to sit with an officer and give him my mom's description and everything. She was legitimately a missing person. I had to call the officer back when she finally came home and tell him, "Sorry, my mom just went on a date." She saw all our texts asking if she's alright and she chose to ignore it. She came home and was so furious the house was messy. When we were literally so scared our mother died, she's pissed the dishes aren't done. Her ex literally cheated on her and left the city for another girl. He completely left my mother. Then when he comes to the city he will rent a hotel and they still have intimacy. I went to the mall some time ago and she asked me to go get her lingerie for when she goes out with Jacob. So absolutely vile she'd ask me to do that. Another time we were bored playing around on an app that was like Omegle. You video chat with strangers for a few seconds and it moves on to the next person. I think the app was called Holla. We were sitting in her car bored as heck, so I thought, why not, let's alive sometime, maybe talk to someone, whatever. I wasn't trying to flirt or meet any guys. For the most part I connect with other girls. You can set preferred gender you'd like to see. Anywho, we connect with a few guys. She pulls down her shirt so more cleavage shows. She cuddles up to me so she gets in the camera and says, "You like mother-daughter action." The second I connect with a man, I immediately felt so sick to my stomach and turned it off. She punched me so hard in the arm and started screaming at me why I shut it off. She called me every name in the book. She started demanding I give her the app name so she could do it herself. I felt like crying in the moment. My mom punched me so hard because I wouldn't entertain these random men with her. Was holding back the tears. It was so painful I developed a huge bruise and my arm hurt me for days. Never forgot that. Another time when I was 15 she kicked me out. I was new to the city and had no cell phone. All I knew was there was a McDonald's across the street. I went and slept in the handicap bathroom for some hours. This was December and I didn't even have a winter coat. I came back home after hours knocking on the door. She let me in and I went to the bathroom to take a hot bath because I was so cold. I begin to have a panic attack and feel like I'm going to throw up because she's verbally assaulting me while I'm in the bathroom. I'm shaking because I'm so cold still even though I'm inside my skin is cold. She tells me I can tell you've done drugs because you're shaking. Did you prostitute yourself for drugs? Keep in mind I'm literally 15 years old at this time. I don't think you're a virgin and I'm taking you to the clinic to check first thing tomorrow. I told her I slept at McDonald's. She said I don't believe you. You went to some guy's house and effed him. I'm calling McDonald's and getting the surveillance. I know you're lying. The most embarrassing part was some girl I knew from school was working at that McDonald's and she saw me sleep on the bathroom. Thankfully I didn't hear anyone talking about it so I assume she just didn't tell anyone. Thank God. Teacher forced me to remove my hat. I had a surprise for her. When I was in college, I was in a car accident. My car got hit from the side. This was in the days before airbags and seatbelt laws. 1 second I'm driving and the next I'm halfway out the passenger window watching a pool of blood run off my head. Next second, I'm in the ER receiving 13 crude stitches for 11 inches of wide open scalp. I lost more than 2 pints of blood and a large patch of hair. I also lost my favorite white fishnet t-shirt, but that's a separate tragedy. That Friday of a Labor Day weekend was how my name shows up in the newspaper list of Labor Day weekend accidents. Tuesday comes and I go to class at the local college. Being a teenager gave me the gift of immortality. There I was, fully ambulatory, just 4 days after the serious car accident. I'm wearing a hat to cover the fresh injury. It was a white Panama hat with a bright 80s style hat band. As this was 1983, everything was 80s style. Hobbling along, I made it to sociology and took a seat at the back of class and settled in. Well, the teacher noticed me, and the conversation went something like this. Excuse me? Could you remove your hat please? The teacher had her own sense of propriety. My hat didn't fit with proper classroom attire. Sorry. I was in a car accident, I replied. She probably took me as one of her rude students, muttering another list of excuses. Take the hat off. You cannot wear that in my class. She was not happy with my hat. At all. Well, okay then, off comes my hat. Roughly a third of my hair had been shaved off. The wound was still pink and puckered. The seam had a line of dried blood in it. The wound began an inch beyond my missing hairline and continued back, branching into a Y shape. The surgeon's instructions were to keep the wound clean, dry, and unbandaged. Lucky for all in attendance, my mother had washed my scalp the previous day. She used the word gore at some point to describe what was washing off. Imagine you're one of my classmates. There were gasps, then a moment of silence, and the teacher goes, "Ah, well in that case you can put your hat back on." I won't before a little malicious compliance. "But miss, I can't wear hats in class," I replied. "I mean, I can do it, but I don't want to break any rules. Please put your hat back on." "Okay. If you insist," and the hat went back on my head. My advice is not to engage in malicious compliance on the first day of class. That was the only C I received that semester, even though I thought I did pretty good, but that's a separate tragedy.